Hi, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Savon Hollimon, and today I'm going to be a video or presenting a video over developing an information security risk management procedure. So in this video, this session, if you would like to call it, I'm going to guide you through the structure process of classifying, identifying, prioritizing, and treating information security risks. We're also going to discuss and talk about how integrating International Organization for Standardization, which is also known as ISO, and National Institute of Standards and Technology, which is also known as NIST, standards can create a balanced, proactive, and resilient approach to managing cyber risks. So for the agenda, we're going to begin by defining information security risk management and its significance. Afterwards, we're going to talk and move into identifying, classifying, and prioritizing risks. Next, we'll review strategic control mechanisms for mitigation. And finally, we're going to end with key insights on continuous improvement and the role of leadership in risk culture. So I want you all to ask yourselves, what is information security risk management? Or how would you define information security risk management? So information security risk management, defined by ISO 27005, it is the systematic approach to managing uncertainty that impacts information assets. NIST complements this by integrating security and privacy controls into enterprise architecture. Together, these frameworks bridge governance driven management and control centric execution, emphasizing that effective risk management aligns with strategic and operational goals. Next, we're going to talk about is establishing scope and context. Before assessing risk, we're defining the scope. What systems, departments, or assets are covered. We're going to identify stakeholders, including executives, IT teams, and compliance personnel. Establish the organizational's risk appetite and tolerance, what they can and cannot tolerate. According to ISO 27001, Clause 6.1.2, this ensures assessments remain consistent, measurable, and aligned with mission objectives. So make sure that you have a clear understanding of what is identified. Like I said, it's the stakeholders, executives, and IT teams, and also the compliance personnel. Next, we're going to talk about is the identification of security risks. The identification phase catalogs all relevant assets. The relevant assets are data, systems, people, and infrastructure. Very four key important pieces, at relevant assets, I would say. Um, we then identify threats such as cyber attacks, which we see often sometimes, or insider misuse, and vulnerabilities like outdated software or weak access controls. Each identified risk should connect to one of the CIA's principles: confidentiality, integrity, or availability. In regards to outdated software, I think that's why it's important for companies, businesses, um, any organization to make sure that they're constantly, staying up to date with the latest and greatest, regardless of the cost, because you having that outdated software makes you a more easier target, sort of say. Next, we're going to talk about are the classification of risks. So once identified, risks are grouped by category. Those categories are operational, technical, legal, or strategic. Using standardized scales for likelihood and impact, typically from 1 to 5, ensures objectivity. Each risk must also have an assigned owner who is accountable for monitoring and control actions. Next, we're going to hit on is risk analysis and evaluation. So, risk analysis moves beyond listing risks. It also quantifies exposure. Using a likelihood impact matrix allows visualization of risk severity. ISO 27001 emphasizes that scoring should be justified with documentation. In advanced contexts, quantitative techniques like annualized loss expectancy can help decision makers allocate resources effectively. Next, we're going to talk about are the prioritization of risks. So, after evaluation, rank each risk according to organizational priorities. ISO 27005 recommends maintaining a living risk register that is continuously updated to reflect changes. Kind of like how I spoke about earlier with changes, staying up to date, and adapting to an ever changing environment. This transparency enables data driven decision making and ensures resources target the most significant threats first. So that's pretty important because you have low risk and you have high risk. And the way that we look at that in the Army is you focus on your 25-meter target. What is the most direct threat that can cause the most damage? And in this example that we're talking about, like what I just said, you want to aim for the most significant threat first. Anything else, not saying you can put on the back burner, but you're not going to make it a priority. Next, we're going to talk about transition to treatment. So, assessing risk is only valuable when it leads to action. I'll say again, assessing risk is only valuable when it leads to action. The next step, being treatment, involves deciding how to handle each identified risk. This marks the shift from theoretical understanding to operational response. So, to go back into the military, since I'm in the Army, when it comes to risk, a lot of times our commander, not a lot of times, our commander assumes risk. He assumes risk, and then he also comes up with control measures that he can implement to lower the risk. Because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that the risk assessment is low and it remains low. Next, we're going to talk about are the risk treatment strategies. Organizations typically choose, excuse me, choose from 4 treatment strategies. Do you know what those are? If you said avoid, mitigate, transfer, and accept, you're correct. Avoidance eliminates risk sources but may impact innovation. Mitigation reduces likelihood or impact through controls. Transferring shifts risk via insurance or outsourcing. Acceptance is appropriate only when residual risk is within tolerance and documented accordingly. I say again, acceptance is appropriate only when residual risk is within tolerance and documented accordingly. Next, we're going to hit on is control mechanism. So ISO 27001 Annex A lists about 93 control groups controls grouped into organizational, people, physical, and technological domains. NIST SP 800 53 they offer a control catalog that emphasizes customization to context. Together, together, the frameworks ensure comprehensive governance and technical coverage, blending flexibility with compliance. Next, we're going to talk about, which I kind of spoke on earlier, are implemented controls. So, implementation transforms policy into practice. Controls must integrate with daily workflows. Examples include multi factor authentication, encryption, and access audits. Control ownership, excuse me, control ownership, documentation, and employee training ensures accountability and operational sustainability. Next, we're going to talk about is monitoring and continuous improvement. So, risk management is it's dynamic. It's not static. The plan, do, check, act cycle, central to ISO 27001, is like a guideline that guides continuous evaluation. Regular audits, management reviews, and environmental scanning ensures the framework evolves alongside new threats and technologies. So, to sort of summarize in a few key takeaways, right? Information security risk management is a cyclical, evidence based process that unites technical precision with strategic governance. By syncing the ISO and NIST methodologies, organizations achieve both resilience and regular alignment. A culture of awareness and accountability transfers security from compliance into competitive advantage. So, this presentation draws from leading sources including information security risk management, Cisco, NIST, ISO, and peer reviewed literature. Together, these demonstrate that information security is not a one time project, it is a sustained but measurable discipline requiring commitment from leadership and the will to continue to learn to improve said security. So, just to wrap everything back up, we talked about the defining information security risk management, and now you have your answer. If you had it at the beginning, then good on you. We talked about identifying, classifying, and prioritizing risks. We also hit on reviewing strategic control mechanism for mitigation. We also talked about key insights on continuous improvement and the role of leadership in risk culture. Like I said, you already gave your answer about information security risk management, but to make sure we're both on the same sheet of music, it is the systematic approach to managing uncertainty that impacts information assets. We also talked about establishing scope and context. We talked about the identification of information security risks and the four catalogs, which were data, systems, people, and infrastructure. We talked about the classification of risks and how they're grouped in the categories, which are operational, technical, legal, and you guessed it, strategic. We also talked about risk analysis and evaluation. We also talked about prioritization of risks, transition to treatment, risk treatment strategies, control mechanisms, implementing controls, monitoring and continuous improvement, and that is all. So once again, my name is Savon Hollimon. Thank you for watching and stay secure out there.